Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rad One Radio. I'm your host, Rob Anthony Dyer, and with me today I have an Emmy Award-winning actress who has starred in The Young and the Restless for over 30 years. I'm talking about Beth Maitland. Hey, Beth, how are you doing?
Hi, Rob. I'm very glad to be here. I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So you were telling me that there was a party today for the 41st anniversary.
Yeah, by the time this airs, it'll just be a couple days old, I think. But I just got home and got my phone out and got in place for our interview. Just got back from The Young and the Restless 41st anniversary, and we're celebrating not only 41 years on television, 25 years as the #1 daytime drama, and we just received our 3-year pickup for 3 more years from the network and the studio. So a big day to celebrate, and the cast was all gathered on the set, and we did some press photos, and there were some interviews and some speeches and a big giant cake, and it was a real fun afternoon.
That's great. Oh, I'm so excited that I got picked up for another 3 years. That's great news.
It is, and you know, in today's the daytime television climate, as we've watched so many of our sister and brother shows being canceled from other networks and from ours, and we've watched the daytime drama format kind of reducing in quantity and sort of moving to web series and things like that, and some nighttime. There's a lot of, I think, soap operas have sort of become the nighttime format for dramas. We are very grateful for any one of the 4 remaining shows, soap operas on daytime. Any one of them that gets attention, any one of them that gets awards, any one of them that signs a pickup is good for everyone. And so it's really changed the playing field, because it used to be the networks used to be, everybody was sort of clannish. All the ABC people would stick together, and all the, CBS people would be over here. Now it is so, we are so concerned for the health of the daytime dramas that remain, that anything that any one of our different, the 4 remaining shows accomplishes is a win for everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm so glad for my DVR, because now I don't have to choose between Days of Our Lives and Y&R and B&B. I watch them all at night, and that's very true what you said about the soap opera format. Primetime series have definitely adopted that. After Dallas and Dynasty and stuff ended, they didn't put on those kind of shows, but then they started doing the continuing plots at night.
And it's not that the nighttime shows are soap operas, but they use what you described as continuing plot. Almost every show on television has a B story that runs underneath whatever this week's episode is about. And that B story is like, is he really her father? We're going to find out in 3 episodes or 6 episodes. I mean, there's always something underlying whatever's going on as the main focus of the episode. And that is completely borrowed from daytime drama.
Absolutely. And then
it used to be, I'm sorry.
No,
it used to be that all, the episodes of television shows stood alone. And you could, would watch it start to finish, and there was no need for it to be in any particular season or in any particular order. And, we would shoot, shows would shoot whatever, 13 or 26 episodes, and then we would watch them, they would rerun them again in the spring. So all the fall shows were new episodes, and then in the spring there wasn't a way to really watch them again. We didn't have recorders and DVRs and the computer at that time. So they would air them all again in reruns in the spring, and then start a whole new roster. And each show stood alone, so it didn't matter what order it aired in. And now it matters.
That's true.
Now it's you binge watch Netflix, and you have to start at season 1, or you're not going to know what's going to happen.
I know every series. That's if I decide I'm going to watch something, I start from the beginning, and I usually wait a season or 2 to see if it's going to last, because I hate it when I get into something and it gets canceled.
Oh, I know, I'm with you.
And then I always have to do catch up. Thank God for Netflix and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was looking at your website, and now I knew that you were into quilting, and you'd written a book about that.
Mm-hmm.
And dressage, which I was talking to Traci Abbott about that the other day.
And, yes, awesome.
And but I didn't know that you did music editing.
I do all kinds of stuff. I do video editing too. I for a while thought I wanted to be a director. And so, I did a whole bunch of little like student film kind of projects. When my daughter was small, I would do a lot of things for their school. I also developed a little fine arts program for her little private elementary school. And I taught kindergarten through sixth grade fine arts. And I would bring in video camera and we would do puppet theater and we would do dance and movement. And because they didn't have a program for it, it kind of segues into my performing in a movie called Mr. Holland's Opus. There's such a reduced budget for arts in education that the principal of her school said, put your money where your mouth is. I would love for you to develop a program for us. And I wanted those children, especially my daughter, to be introduced to some of the various performing arts that they might be interested in going into later on in life. And there was absolutely no program at this particular school. So I started videotaping all this stuff and learning to edit it. And then I got a little bit more enthusiastic about the editing thing and started actually doing multi-camera shoots and editing. And that kind of segued into when I started writing. A bunch of my friends are dressage competitors at the basically pre-Olympian level. I mean, some very, very accomplished writers are friends of mine. And they do musical freestyles, which is very much like you picture the easiest way to describe it is sort of picture ice skaters. You know how they do, or gymnasts. They do compulsive routines and exercise movements to music. And so people do this on their horses. They basically musical, like dancing with your horse. And so I started, because I could edit, people would ask me, hey, can you put some of these clips together? And you have to time the gaits of the horse. You have to figure out how fast the horse trots and how fast they gallop, they canter. And you have to, time their movement and then change the music tempo. And you're a musician, you know all about this stuff. You have to change the tempo a little bit to match the number of footfalls per minute of the horse so that the actual movement happens in perfect harmony and it looks like the horse is in sync with the music. Now, some horses are really talented at this and they actually do learn the music and they even know when to change movements based on what the music that they hear if they practice enough. Wow. But some horses, it's mostly, they maybe don't get a whole lot of practice even because it's mostly an aspect of their competition career and they're moving up the levels to get gold medals and things like that. So in that particular case, you have to really spend more time matching the music to the horse as opposed to the horse to the music. So this is way more than you ever wanted to probably know about dressage.
No, I find it really interesting actually because I've been doing I produce my own music and I do a lot of editing and I love editing music and mixing and stuff like that. But lately I've been putting music to video and stuff, so I'm very interested in what you had to say. Which is also it's really funny because I asked Traci Bregman about whether she listens to music when she rides, and she says no, she can't.
Really?
Yeah, she said that she likes to be in tune and talk to the horse.
Oh wow, how about that? Traci and I are on this really hilarious parallel path with our horses. When we were first on The Young and the Restless, these 30-odd years ago, we started about 6 months apart. And so we've both been on the show around 31-ish. We're about to start our 32nd year. Anyway, as young women, I had been on the show long enough to have been given as a gift my very first horse. And so she used to come riding with me. And we actually did, in those days, there were a lot of magazine shows on the air, and they would do specialty little personal interest segments with folk stars. And crews came out and met us at the barn where I had my horse boarded. And Traci and we borrowed a horse for Traci, and we met out there with the film crew. And they actually filmed us getting our horses ready and riding and interviewed us. And it was a really fun day at the barn. All these years later, for several years, I've always had horses. Traci was a city girl for a while, and then she moved out near the beach and became kind of a more country girl. And she always was a hunter jumper in her youth. She took a lot of riding lessons and competed. The middle part of her life, she was not really involved with horses so much. I got this big black Frisian horse, and she came to visit him and fell in love with him. And now I have a pair. I have a gelding and a mare I've recently rescued to rehab from some medical issues that I think I can help her with. She was on a very sad course of hopelessness, and a foundation that I work with selected me to adopt her. I mean, I haven't had her a whole month yet, and we're on the course to getting her back to fitness and health and soundness. So I'm really excited about that. But I digress. So Traci and I started writing again in my adult life much before Traci did. She recently has bought herself a beautiful Frisian gelding, like my pretty black horses up front. But hers is a dressage champion. Mine are more project horses. I clicker train, I teach them tricks. I do exhibitions in costume, and I have costumes for my horses I make and costumes for me, and it's hilarious. I'm like the circus girl. And Traci is like the athlete, and she has a horse that is a champion dressage horse, and so she will do very well with him. And it's like I said, sort of parallel courses. We both have the same breed of horse and our same love for them, but we have kind of sort of slightly different interests. And it's very complementary to our enthusiasm about supporting each other. It's been so much fun for her to come and visit my horses and see what I'm doing, for me to go and visit her horse and see what she's doing, to meet her trainer, to talk about all these, like dancing to music, writing to music. She's in her very heavy duty training mode though, as an athlete, and probably is not at the point where the music would be anything more than a distraction. I have music going even when I'm putting the saddle on and grooming up my horse. I've got flamenco guitar music hanging in my trees. So we're going to get her broken in. We're going to get her hooked up here pretty soon.
That's great. I've seen pictures of your horse. It's beautiful. And I think did you go riding with Jess Walton recently? Did I see pictures of that on Facebook?
Actually, we didn't go riding, but she came to visit me. I lived for about a year and a half in Santa Ynez. I'm recently moved back down to Los Angeles. There was just too much work, and the commute was just knocking me down. So we moved back closer to town again. But when I lived in Santa Ynez, which is in the California Central Coast, we had a lovely property, and my horses were up there. Jess has recently purchased a lovely ranch in Oregon where she spends most of her time, and they have adopted Mustangs. And so she, through another odd parallel course, she found my natural horsemanship, natural horsekeeping gurus that have pioneered a way. It's sort of like Traci's conscious living website for people. They have pioneered a conscious living for horses, where they want you to keep them as close to how they would live in the wild as is possible in domestication. So they are who are helping me with my new little mare, get her back to soundness by making her barefoot, taking off her shoes. She has had a thing called founder, which is a very dramatic and devastating medical condition that arises. In her case, it happened during pregnancy. So it's sort of like a woman maybe getting toxemia. You can't predict it's going to happen. And it happened with women. It's like your body rejecting the baby, and you are often bedridden for the whole pregnancy, and it's quite dramatic. In a similar way to this poor little horse, she foundered, and it's been a year later, and she's still not well. So we're working on that. But Jess saw on Facebook that I knew these people, and she said, "Beth, is there any way I could meet them?" So I said, "You have to come and see me first." So she came out. And we spent a day out at their pack paradise, they call it. It's a property where they have developed this amazing habitat for their pack of horses. And so Jess got to meet everybody, and then we went to Ostrich Land, where we got to see the ostriches. Just hilarious place. It's like a tourist attraction place in San Diego. And then she spent a few days with us and met my horses and got to become friends with them. And so the pictures that you may have seen of us together were her. Actually, we didn't ride because our time was short, but we did spend a lot of time with the horses. She then has adopted some Mustangs. So she's rescued some wild horses that they are now putting in a paddock. They've put in a paddock paradise at their ranch in Oregon, and she has embraced this whole natural horse keeping, and she has beautiful Mustangs that she has on her property.
Oh, that's great. I think adopting animals is a great thing.
It is a great thing. I have a few animals on the property that I have purchased, but my policy is if I'm going to buy like a specialty breed I'm really interested in, I'm also going to rescue one. So almost everybody comes in pairs or threes or whatever around here. I have more rescued animals than I have animals that I've purchased as a specific breed interest or whatever. Four-legged, hooved, all different kinds. I've rescued goats and chickens and sheep. I rescued 2 Mediterranean burros, miniature little donkeys. I rescued a miniature horse. And then this mare is sort of a rescue. Our dogs and cats are the same way. I bought a kitten and then rescued 2. So I'm with you. I think the animals know when they've been saved, and there is nothing like the relationship that I have experienced from rescued animals. And it's been dozens and dozens in my checkered but very happy career with animals.
I know it's true. I think with rescues, they choose you, and my cat was a rescue. She has her own Twitter account.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, she likes to write, so.
From literarycat.com.
Right, yeah. So now, what got you into quilting? Is it something that was passed down to you from generations in your family, or is it something that you just got interested in on your own?
Well, yes and no. I was not raised by sewers in my mother's generation. But the generation before that, my grandmother and my great aunt, all of them, actually both grandmothers, were very accomplished needlewomen in various things. They all quilted. I have a great aunt who taught me how to tat, which is actually making lace with a little shuttle and string. I always was interested in handwork. From the time I was just a pre-teenager, I made my own elementary school graduation dress, and my mom did not teach me how to sew, but as soon as I was in high school, there was a tremendous need for, in a theater group that I was involved with, for resourceful sewers. And I ended up on the costume crew and made, Puritan costumes out of somebody's old drapes because I didn't know better than to say, no, you can't do it. I just said, well, okay, let's give it a try. And so I had 4 years on this costume team, as well as performing in the plays. And then when I was in college, I was in an opera company for a couple of years. I was a music major and voice was my major, so I had to sing in these operas as part of the program. And I ended up working a little bit with the costume staff there, too. I just always loved to sew. And then when I got to Los Angeles, there's always a need in theater companies. And anytime I was doing a play, often I would do my own costumes, or they would need help with some things. And on TV, they don't usually build the clothes. They usually buy the clothes. So it's more picking out wardrobe as opposed to building costumes. But I couldn't get it out of my system. So I've always been a sewer. And when my daughter was small, I think her earliest concoction was she was building a Princess Amidala costume for a 4-year-old. When Star Wars Episode 1 or something came out. Anyway, she would draw a picture of what she wanted to be for Halloween, or we always go to the Renaissance Fair every year. There are 2 actually in Los Angeles and Central Coast that we try to attend. She would draw what she wanted and I would make it. Fairy costumes, princess costumes, all kinds of stuff. I avoided quilting for the longest time because I knew it was going to be once I started, I was not going to be able to get out of it very well. I was going to end up with boxes and boxes of fabric and piles of projects. But I got to a time in my career, Rob, when they weren't calling me in very often. I was at an age, a woman of a certain age when agents and managers weren't signing me, and I didn't really have a lot of other acting options besides theater. And I do a lot of other things too. I do production work. I work on sitcoms in the sound booth. I take post-production notations. Referring back to the part of the time I thought I wanted to be a director, I took these jobs to sort of educate myself on the job training, what a director would need in post-production. So my job is sort of an intermediary between what goes on stage while they're shooting and what ends up going to post for them to edit together. So I do that, but I really needed a creative outlet to continue to keep me from kind of going bonkers. And so I have always written articles and done design work. I have a 6-needle semi-industrial embroidery machine I've had for 10 or 15 years with something like 30 million stitches on it that I've it's like sort of like a odometer on a car. And I have a construction machine and a serger and an embellishment machine. I just have a big old workshop set up, and I just love to give people presents I make. I love to design things. I have a lot of soap star friends who have worn my purses and things that I've made, jewelry on TV shows and things like that. So I've always been dabbling in design and accessories and things like that. And I just finally gave up and started quilting, and mostly to use my machine embroidery designs that I was working on as elements in quilts. And that sort of expanded to people asking, can you write a little article for our magazine or our online blog, or can you? So I just embraced the whole thing, wrote a quilting book. It came out right before Christmas. And I started a YouTube channel. You can go online and watch my little tutorials. Some of them are shot with a crew, and some of them I just shoot on my iPad. And you can hear my cats talking to you in the background. my Bengal cats are running by. They love quilting. It's love it when we talk about quilting, Rob. But so I've got my little YouTube channel up, and that also is sort of a byproduct of people saying, I'm trying to put a place together where people can go learn a little bit about sewing, decide if they want to embrace it and make a few projects, maybe buy my quilting book if they want to. I have a blog where I give tutorials and instructions on how to make small projects and things like that, with an idea that with this sort of branding, I call myself Beth Maitland, the drama queen bee. With this sort of branding, I hope to at some point have a show. I would love to do a DIY show, or not necessarily only quilting, but some kind of a lifestyles and do-it-yourself crafting kind of show. Frankly, home sewing is a multi-billion-dollar business now, with machine embroidery available to the home sewist, and a long arm quilting affordable now to do in your home. All kinds of specialty machines, all kinds of young people are interested in do it yourself. It is experiencing a gigantic renewal, and so I was hoping to sort of participate in that. And find other areas for me to use my skills as a performer as well.
That's very cool. I hope that'd be great if you got your own show, kind of like Martha Stewart or something.
Well, probably not quite as large scale as that, but the way she started, certainly the way that she started, kind of doing little guest spots and just doing a little small. It's sort of the kind of thing where I would love it if everybody could rely on me to help them realize that anybody can be creative. You just have to find a thing that speaks to you, and then relax enough. I used to teach voice lessons, singing lessons to actors, because there were so many actors that thought they couldn't sing. They said, "Oh no, I can't sing. I'm tone deaf." Well, it turns out that they weren't tone deaf. I don't know if anyone is really tone deaf unless you actually have damage to your ears. But I think it was a situation where, especially with guys, their voice was high or cracking because it was changing or whatever, and they were made fun of or teased, and so they just decided that they were tone deaf, or they didn't know how to listen to music and understand the differences in pitch and how to accomplish that. So I used to teach because it wasn't so much that I was so driven to have a million singers in the world, but more to have a million people think that they could do it. And that's how I feel about sewing too. It would be my biggest goal is not for everyone to make the most beautiful quilts, but to say one day, I feel like doing this. I'm nervous about it, but Beth says I can, so I really can.
That's great. I love that attitude. I would like to try everything and see if I can do it and learn something myself all the time. I'd even try sewing sometime. I don't know. I'm not.
I work with a very talented, very intelligent boom operator that makes his own underwear.
That's funny.
He is an Ashtanga yoga guy. He took a hiatus break and went to India to study with the guru. And he tries new things like crazy and just loves to keep learning. One summer he took a sewing class and loved it so much he started making things for himself. And he started making swim trunks and underwear and knapsacks. It's hilarious. As everyone teases him because he makes his own underwear.
That is fun. I have never heard that before. That is definitely something new. So now you're going to be back on The Young and the Restless again? I don't even remember Traci going back to New York, actually.
Oh, no, I don't think she is. I think just kind of off the canvas, but in the scenes that I am actually taping tomorrow, I'm going in tomorrow to tape some scenes that will air, I want to say the 20th of April. It might be, it will be either 18th, 19th, 20th, somewhere in there. We're coming up in just a couple of weeks. We're getting close now. So like 3 or 4 weeks from now, I talk about being roommates with Abby. So I guess I haven't been in to shoot since January. So I take it that Traci has just been off the canvas, advising everybody at the campus coffee shop or
right.
or at the Abbott breakfast table, off camera. So I'm currently still there. And thrilled about that. I love that it's still mysterious. I don't know if it will ever resolve itself, that I'm having marital problems. And so I've moved back to Genoa City, temporarily, in finger quotes, to figure out what to do about my life. And for the person who is everybody's go-to, advice, person and, and, conscience, it's kind of interesting that Traci has some problems that she's stuffing down and not dealing with at the moment. And I hope that we actually will get to hear about some of that. We'll see.
I think the new writers are really good about resolving things and not leaving things just unsettled. And that's very true. Traci's like the only Abbott that has her head screwed on properly, I think now, since John died. But you're right. She's always good at helping other people with their problems, but not her own. Yeah,
which is kind of a lovely, interesting, multi-layered dynamic. As I'm thrilled that I'm not only there to pat everyone on the shoulder and say here, or there, or well, what about this? And be a moral. They use the term moral compass, but I don't really feel like she's the guiding force as much as the sounding board. But it's kind of nice to be that responsible for other people's issues and doling out advice, and not have everything all of that together yourself. It keeps people human and flawed. It keeps Traci interesting. She's the one that was the most damaged at first.
Right.
Back in the day, she had, the poor, insecure, shy thing had every problem in the world, and every summer a new dramatic one. So it's kind of nice for her to not have to have grown up into a mature, lovely person who's whole and complete, but still flawed.
Yes, exactly. I think they're really bringing multi-dimensions to the characters, and I've definitely noticed a change for the better in recent years.
Awesome. I honestly, I'm still trying to keep track of all the new characters and how they're all being interwoven into the legacy families and aspects that are still out there waiting for us to be surprised by. I'm still sorting through all of that. I am so traditional that I honestly, love to see the legacy stuff. Not only just to play it, but I love as a viewer too, to see where we came from and how that has continued to be, how that continues to be honored.
Absolutely. Now, do you do watch the show then too?
I do. I don't watch it regularly. I will be quite honest. This is just a bizarre thing to admit. We have not had television for about 3 years. We live just far enough out of the city to not have any broadcast television available to us.
Wow.
And my husband is in entertainment. I'm in entertainment. My daughter is a music major and off at college. So several years ago, my husband turned off our cable because we would spend all of our, 12-hour, 13, 14-hour days making TV and come home and have access to 600 or 700 channels and there was never anything on. How that can be is a mystery. We don't get to watch, the Super Bowl or the Indy 500 or the Westminster Kennel Club in live time. But nowadays that's not even important because it ends up on Netflix. You can binge watch there. There are so many other alternatives, and the way I watch Young and the Restless is on the website,
right,
which I recommend for viewers that are either rural or in other countries and don't have access, or have a problem like you used to, where all three of their shows are on at the same time.
Right.
You can go on the website and watch Young and the Restless, the last 5 episodes that have aired. And there are always 5. The most recent 5 episodes are always there. So I have to admit to tuning in from time to time on the website.
Absolutely, and CBS is great because they're up at 5 p.m. sharp every day.
Yes.
The same day, which is awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Beth, for spending the time to talk with me today, and I hope to see more of Traci because I love the Abbotts.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best, and I'll put up all your information on my website so people can check out the links to all your stuff.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's been a great pleasure talking to you again. And I hope that I am very often an interviewer's challenge because you never get to the end of your question list because I just go on and on and on. So I hope that some of the things we talked about today were on task and on point. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I really appreciate you asking me to be here again. Oh,
well, thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you, too.
Thanks.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
Isn't Beth Maitland delightful? I love talking with her. She is such a nice lady and so talented. I want to wish the Young and the Restless a happy 41st anniversary, and I'm honored to be able to talk with 2 of my favorite ladies from the show. And thank you again for listening. Coming up on Monday is my chat with primetime soap legend Cherie J. Wilson, who played April Stevens on the original Dallas, and is also well known for playing Alex, the assistant district attorney on Walker, Texas Ranger for 9 seasons. So don't miss that. Thank you for listening to Rad One Radio.
This is Rad One Radio.